These hackers are everywhere, so you might want to protect yourself at expressvpn.com/inside.
King, hey everybody, and welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Tuesday. Let's talk about the Switch and the dreaded Joycon Drift.
Tough to get you. It's probably the biggest hardware failure of this particular generation. It's affected untold numbers of Switch users, myself included, and prompted a bunch of lawsuits, even a child. But more on that later.
And representing himself.
I was gonna say, I hope it's
Can't wait to see how it'll go.
a child in a little suit and, you know.
Considering that the Switch has been out for more than 3 years now, you'd think that Nintendo would have fixed Joycon Drift, but no, it is still a problem, and it's a very expensive one considering that a new set of Joy-Cons cost about $80. I had one Joy-Con that just died completely, bought a new set for $80, had Joy-Con Drift on one, and then eventually had Lawrence fix it.
I had Lawrence fix mine too.
He just likes getting into those Joy-Cons, doesn't he?
Yeah, he was very happy to do it. So
He was thrilled.
Weirdly, though, we're just not letting Patrick read. Nintendo, or at least the lawyers it chose to represent it, is being very dismissive of Joy-Con Drift behind the scenes, even allegedly saying that it's not a big deal at all.
All right, Nintendo just out here gaslighting us. Maybe it's a ghost making my characters move when I'm not touching the sticks. A haunted Switch, that might be interesting. If it's not real, then what's up with all the lawsuits that Nintendo's facing over this? Because
Sure it's real.
It's real.
It's real.
And it could happen to you! You might remember that a class action lawsuit over Joy-Con Drift was filed last year, and now it's starting to make its way through the court system here in the US.
The suit alleges that Nintendo is aware of a defect which causes Joy-Con Drift, and has accused the company of unfair and deceptive business practices.
Unfair and deceptive business practices.
Is that how I sound?
No.
That's
I mean,
Vincent Price.
That's how
That's
I
Vincent
talk?
Price, but it is how you sound also.
Oh.
I loved you in all those cereal
Thank you.
commercials.
Thank you.
There's truly nothing spookier than Rice Krispies with orange milk.
Earlier this year, a U.S. district judge in Seattle rejected Nintendo's attempt to get the case dismissed, but they did approve Nintendo's move to move the case to arbitration. Ah, yes, a classic.
That's a way to resolve disputes outside of the courts where a neutral arbiter hears evidence and arguments, then makes a decision about the
Arbitrator.
case.
The arbiter is a character.
Yeah,
in Halo.
but I
Halo.
love that you said arbiter, because I'm like, can we leave that in and just put a
Arbiter is-
Photoshop of the arbiter?
That's a way to resolve disputes outside of the courts where a neutral arbitrator hears evidence and arguments, then makes a decision about the case, and that arbitrator's decision is final.
Yep.
How is
Arbiter's
that legal?
decision is final.
How is that something that we do?
It does seem pretty nuts. Just one person who's just like,
Right.
this, and then
I have spoken.
The firm that brought the class action suit has been asking for video testimonials by people who have experienced Joy-Con Drift.
They want a bunch of short videos to, in their words, humanize and demonstrate these issues and their impact on consumers.
Reddit user Mitten Scone posted an email they got from the firm explaining what they're doing. They wrote, "We are working on putting together a montage of video clips from Nintendo Switch owners such as yourself as a way to give voice to the Joy-Con Drift issues you've experienced. This will be helpful to us in responding to Nintendo's arguments about how this isn't a real problem or hasn't caused anyone any inconvenience."
Yes, we are all just suffering from mass delusion, and Nintendo is finally here to show us the way.
The firm asked people to submit videos by October 16th and said it will share them with Nintendo's attorneys and the company's representatives. Side note, our own Brian Garr, who wrote the script, has noticed the issue on 2 sets of Joy-Con, so this is obviously a massive issue that needs to be fixed
If it
now.
affected Brian,
If it affected Brian, it could affect anyone.
You know
has to
what's
read
also
it.
a massive problem? Smelly balls. Luckily, you, dear viewer, won't have that problem thanks to our friends at Manscaped.
Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by Manscaped. 2020 is nuts. That doesn't mean you should disregard your nuts. Manscaped is on a mission to take care of your balls with their below-the-waist grooming and hygiene product, and they just released their products in the UK, Canada, and Australia. So finally, if you're across the pond or down under, you can get in the club. They also just released the Crop Care Kit, which is a formulation bundle to give you A+ balls, and it's the ultimate male hygiene pack. It includes the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, the name speaks for itself. What do I gotta say? Crop Reviver Ball Toner, spray-on toner that gives your balls a little slice of heaven. A little aloe vera and hazel. Ooh, that sounds nice. The Crop Cleanser Body Wash. It's a full body wash that you can also use on your hair. The Crop Mop Ball Wipes. Oh my god. Crop Mop Ball Wipes. You never know when an opportunity strikes. You gotta always be prepared. And the Foot Duster Foot Deodorant, designed to keep the stinkiest feet smelling fresh. Ooh, stinky. Okay. And of course the Lawnmower 3.0, that's the trimmer itself. It's got a ceramic blade, replaceable. The advanced skin safe technology helps reduce grooming accidents drastically, and it's waterproof. So right now you can get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with code INSIDE20. That is 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with code INSIDE20. Thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring today's show.
Okay, back to Joycon Drift. So it's an issue that's been with the Switch since the very beginning. As long as the Switch has been around, there have been reports of drifting Joy-Con, meaning that they'll sometimes register an input on the control sticks even if you're not pushing it.
Shortly after the class action lawsuit was filed last year in Seattle, Nintendo stopped charging people to repair Joy-Con, so
Seems like an acknowledgement of a problem, you'd think.
even more so, earlier this year, Nintendo formally apologized for the issue. It happened at a shareholders conference where top company executives were asked about the Joy-Cons and what they're doing to improve things.
Seems like you might think it exists, I'm just saying.
Well, I can see how you'd think that, given that President Shuntaro Furukawa responded with a clear mea culpa saying, regarding the Joy-Con, we apologize for any trouble caused to our customers.
Yeah, well, he didn't even elaborate further, citing the ongoing lawsuit against Nintendo. Furukawa added, "We are continuing to aim to improve our products, but as the Joy-Con is the subject of a class action lawsuit in the United States and this is still a pending issue, we would like to refrain from responding about any specific actions."
So it's weird that they're apologizing publicly, but in court, Nintendo is arguing that the drift isn't actually a problem. Now, granted, these are the plaintiff's attorneys who are making that argument, so they could be exaggerating a bit.
Either way, it's clear that Nintendo is fighting this issue for as long as they can in court. Makes sense that they would be trying to minimize the impact of Joy-Con Drift. It has definitely been the biggest problem for what otherwise has been a very successful console for Nintendo. I would argue the network issues are also up there. In about 3.5 years since it released, the Switch has sold more than 63 million units, lifted by its popular IP and most recently Animal Crossing New Horizons. And the global pandemic helped.
But regardless, lawsuits over the Joy-Con Drift just keep on coming. Just recently, Wired reported that a boy and his mother filed yet another class action lawsuit against Nintendo over the issue.
Oh, this is great. This is incredible news.
The complaint was filed in Northern California by a woman named Luz Sanchez and her young son, according to court documents. Back in December of 2018, she bought a Switch for her son, who was 8 at the time. The suit says that within a month, the controller started drifting, and less than a year later, they became inoperable for general gameplay use.
So she bought another set of Joy-Con, as is the correct term. There's no S on the end of it because Nintendo. But then they started drifting too. They are asking for more than $5 million in damages plus a replacement Joy-Con set hourly. Maybe it caused them a lot of pain.
They need 100,000.
You guys are being inconsiderate.
They need 100,000 new pairs of Joy-Cons.
Correct.
Despite Nintendo's apologies, they argued that the company hasn't done enough to fix the problem. They wrote that Nintendo continues to market and sell the products with full knowledge of the defect and without disclosing the Joy-Con Drift defect to consumers in its marketing, promotion, or packaging. And what's more, they argued that Nintendo has a financial motive to conceal the defect, as it did not want to stop selling the products and/or would need to expend a significant amount of money to cure the defect.
It does feel a bit cold-blooded of Nintendo to keep selling Joy-Con, which don't appear to have been fixed, and while it presents itself as the cuddly, kid-friendly company, it seems like behind the scenes, Nintendo can be just as money-grabbing as the EAs of the world.
Reddit user Auronus summarized a lot of people's feelings on the issue, writing, "I've had the Red Ring of Death for 360 and the PS2 and PS3 fail and always knew I could rely on Nintendo. Perhaps I have always kidded myself that Nintendo was special somehow in this regard."
Nintendo do make really high-quality products, generally. Like, I feel like their games rarely have bugs. They make very high-quality stuff. Joy-Con, on the other hand, cool tech, broken trash.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily. For Monday, let's clap for Patrick getting that bag, and for the PlayStation 5, it is finally out in the wild. Reviewers have gotten their hands on it, and they have impressions to share with us. Observe.
And now we see the gamer in his natural habitat, crouched over a couch, staring